President Trump now appears to be leaving Volodymyr Zelensky hanging on the promised Patriot production license. By stepping back from the Patriot license at a time when Russia is ramping up missile and drone attacks, Trump is effectively pulling away Ukraine's potential safety net. The apparent U.S. pullback from its Patriot promise comes just as Iran ramps up its own threats toward Kyiv, raising questions over whether Washington is recalibrating to avoid a direct clash with Tehran on Ukrainian soil. Critics say Trump is abandoning Zelensky at a moment when fears of having to confront Iran-linked forces in the Ukrainian theater are mounting. Donald Trump has now appeared to backtrack on his earlier promise to Zelensky about allowing Ukraine to manufacture Patriot missiles, muddying what Kyiv had presented as a clear green light from Washington. In a Financial Times interview, Trump said he was not sure whether the U.S. would actually grant Ukraine the license to produce Patriot missiles, signaling that the decision is far from settled. These developments were reported by the Financial Times on July 30th, quoting the U.S. president directly and putting on record his hesitation over giving Kyiv access to this technology. Trump told the FT that the Patriot is a very extraordinary weapon, and that Washington has to be a little bit careful of who we license to, framing his caution as a matter of technology control. Just weeks earlier, on July 10th, Trump had told reporters that the U.S. would give Kyiv the right to make Patriots, a public statement that Ukrainian officials welcomed as a major step toward domestic production. Ukraine has repeatedly asked the U.S. for Patriot systems and interceptors to shoot down Russian missiles and drones, arguing that such defenses are essential to protect cities and critical infrastructure. Estimates suggest U.S. Patriot interceptor inventories have fallen to roughly 700-800 rounds as of July 2026, significantly reducing the buffer the Pentagon once had. Analysts say that's a drop of around 65% from pre-Iran war levels of about 2,330 interceptors, underscoring how intensive the recent fighting has been for U.S. air defenses. The PAC-3 MSE interceptor variant has reportedly been among the most heavily used in the Iran war, as it is optimized for knocking down ballistic missiles and high-end aerial threats. Each Patriot interceptor costs in the ballpark of $4 million, and with over 1,200 used in the war, the financial and industrial strain on replenishment has become substantial. The U.S. Army's FY 2027 budget request calls for around 3,203 new Patriot interceptors, but deliveries are not expected until roughly 2029, meaning the stockpile will stay tight in the near term. Industry data indicate about 650 Patriots are produced annually, with roughly half earmarked to fill Allied orders, further limiting how quickly the U.S. can rebuild its own inventory while supporting partners. Trump's apparent backtrack comes amid a recent escalation between Iran and Ukraine, including Iranian threats after Ukrainian actions against Iranian assets, which complicates Washington's calculus on advanced air defense transfers. Iran weighed a retaliatory strike after the Caspian cargo ship attack blamed on Ukraine, according to the New York Times. Tehran reportedly considered launching a missile strike against a Ukrainian port on the Black Sea, the report said. Iranian officials viewed the proposed attack as a symbolic response to the deadly strike on the Iranian commercial vessel. The New York Times said such a strike could have widened the conflict because of Iran's close strategic ties with Russia. However, diplomatic contacts between Iran and Ukraine reportedly helped reduce tensions and prevented immediate escalation. Ukraine reportedly told Iran during a phone call that the strike on the cargo ship had been unintentional. Following the call, Iran's foreign minister said Tehran did not seek further escalation but demanded restitution for its losses. Iran also held diplomatic discussions with the European Union as part of broader efforts to reduce tensions, according to reports. Defense Express said Iran possesses ballistic missiles capable of directly reaching targets inside Ukraine if ordered to do so. The outlet said the Garda, Emad, and Sejal ballistic missiles each have reported ranges of around 2,000 kilometers. Defense Express also said Ukraine lacks THAAD and Arrow missile defense systems designed to counter such long-range ballistic threats. Iran had earlier warned Ukraine of consequences following the ship strike that killed an Iranian sailor in the Caspian Sea. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha held what he described as a frank phone conversation with his Iranian counterpart on July 28. The call followed Iran's accusations that Ukraine attacked an Iranian commercial vessel in the Caspian Sea. Kiev maintains that its July 25 drone operation targeted Russian vessels allegedly transporting military cargo. Ukraine insists all of its military actions are focused solely on defending itself against Russian aggression. Sibaha stressed that Ukraine never intended to target civilian ships or innocent civilians. Andriy Sibaha said, and I quote, "I called Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi for a frank conversation. Diplomacy is about direct conversation, even when it's difficult. I stressed that our goal is to avoid unnecessary escalation. I reiterated that all of Ukraine's actions are aimed solely at defending our country from Russian aggression and never intended to target civilian vessels or people. This is also true with regard to Iran's statements about their national who died and a civilian vessel that was targeted in a recent incident. Our goal is to counter Russian aggression, which is the root cause of all incidents, and it is Russia who bears full responsibility for all provocations and casualties. I emphasized the necessity to refrain from any escalatory steps, as well as to end any support for Russia's war against Ukraine. This war is illegal and it must end. Our position remains unchanged. Europe and the Middle East deserve stability, security, and peace." Unquote. Iran says one of its commercial vessels was struck, leaving one seafarer dead and 3 others injured. According to Abbas Araghchi, Ukraine assured Tehran that the attack on the Iranian vessel was unintentional. Iran's foreign minister said Tehran also seeks to avoid escalation despite the latest incident. Abbas Araghchi said, and I quote, "Was assured by Ukrainian FM Andriy Sibaha that the attack on an Iranian ship was unintentional and Ukraine seeks no escalation. Iran does not seek escalation either, but made clear any attack on our citizens or interests is unacceptable. There must be restitution for losses." Unquote. Araghchi reiterated that attacks on Iranian citizens or national interests will not be tolerated. The diplomatic exchange comes amid growing tensions over allegations that Iran has supported Russia's war effort. The phone call marks one of the rare direct diplomatic contacts between Kiev and Tehran in recent years. The conversation took place while President Zelensky was meeting US President Donald Trump in Washington.